PennsylvaniaBeer.com and Bison Beverage of Lewisburg presents Beer Time.
Beer Time. I'm your host, Scott Bernstein. I'm with Than Mitchell.
Good morning.
And Chad Evans, our producer.
How are you, fellas?
All right, let's get right down to it, Than.
Morning beer drinking. I'm into it.
You're into any kind of beer drinking.
Okay. Yeah.
Well,
In fact, you're right about that.
While we're talking about beer, let's crank open, and this is available at the Bison Beverage. Look at that
A well
hot
shaken
mess.
beer.
Look at that. Where is the hole? Okay. We're in trouble, man.
We're out of the gates.
We are out of the gates.
I think maybe that's true. What were you drinking earlier this morning, Scott?
I don't know
What
what
do we
happened
have
here.
here?
Look at this hot mess.
What do we have here?
Okay, we're drinking. It's called Lone Pine Brewing Company out of Portland, Maine. It's Portland Pale Ale. I lived in Portland for 2 years, and they can make a great pale ale there.
You lived in Portland?
I lived in Portland in my early 20s. How I got there is a long story. But I will say this. My favorite beer is Geary's, which we've had.
Oh, many times, yeah.
And Thad and I have had 2,700 different beers. This is number 2,700 different beers over a 15-year career.
And it's not different beers like this is a different Budweiser than yesterday's Budweiser.
Right.
It's different beers that we have never seen before, generally never tasted before.
Exactly. It's been quite a journey to drink that many beers. I know every time we break a fruit,
Tough. It was tough.
It was hard. But when we break out a fruit beer, you get pissy. You get all kind of anxious and mad. And
I get more than pissy. I think, why did they mess up a good beer with guava?
But nothing wrong with guava.
With
Look at this.
strawberries, with cherries. I mean, beer should be frickin' beer. That's all there is. I'm just a grouchy old man.
No, you're not.
I want my beer.
Okay, Than. Let's talk about your resume here. You're a very interesting character. That's why you're here. You are an activist. You were
It was at one time.
you're an activist.
They brought a sponge for you right there.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Jesus Christ. Look at this.
You're spoiling your script.
I know. I can't read anything right now. So let's do this. You're an activist.
I try to be. I'm kind of that.
You a radio guy of more than 50 years.
More than 50, about 55.
An icon.
An icon.
An icon.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, well, I'm saying it. How do you like that?
Thanks, Chad.
You're welcome.
And
radio man over here.
a great radio man. He's more than a
Absolutely.
radio man. He does a little bit of everything.
94 KX.
Yes, sir.
There he goes.
The one time to listen to WKOK when you can hear Chad.
Okay, so here we go. You, my friend, were the first person to room with a black man in college in 1958.
1958, yep.
Take us there.
Well, my parents, being practicing Quakers, apparently caught the attention of the Dickinson people. I wasn't much of a student, but I had learned to love everybody equally.
Well, you have to be a little bit of a student to get into Dickinson.
No, you don't. You have to know people, and I knew people. My parents had connections.
Okay.
And I did very badly in college. There's no question about that. But I was given the greatest experience to know a Broadway actor later on in life, Fred Morsell.
So that was your roommate.
Yeah, that was my
Fred
roommate,
Morsell.
who was Frederick Douglass, the great black activist in the 1860s, I believe. Mm-hmm. He played that role on television.
Oh, really?
Anytime that somebody needed a Frederick Douglass. So Freddie was really quite amazingly well known.
Well, there's a lot of paperwork.
What?
I don't know. I remember you and I were talking about once. Your parents had to sign off
Oh,
on
yeah,
it?
well, yeah, because, in fact, my parents weren't sure I should do it because,
Right.
first place, they knew I was a dumb kid. And secondly, they were afraid I might be hurt.
Really?
Well, there was nothing like that.
Did other
wonderfully.
Did other students take to it well, or
Oh,
was
yeah,
it-
absolutely.
That's what it takes.
Absolutely. It was, I did. Now, Freddie might not have told me about all that happened. And I know toward the end of his college career, he was uncomfortable with the school. Don't know anything about it, though.
Sure.
I lasted a semester and he went all the way through.
Okay.
So I wasn't really connected with him after that first year. But boy, did I learn a lot about diversity and the fun of having really interesting friends around you who are not exactly from your culture. And he was from, as he told me, you have to say it, Flemish Avenue
Well,
in New York.
like a famous person said once, unpolished stories by broken people.
Now, you were going to ask me what kind of a bar I go to. and
What is the tavern that Dan Mitchell loves to go to?
I'll tell you what, I like any dive bar.
I do too.
I
I'm with you
like
there.
any bar where you walk in and what was the statement you just said?
What's that?
The fellow said on the other podcast about broken people.
Yes. Unpolished stories by broken people.
Now, unpolished stories, I agree with. 50% broken people, 50% people who just know where they'd like to be, and it's with neighbors and friends.
I'm with you.
And that way, it's a friendly bar.
Now, have you ever been to a McSheck's?
I was at one McSheck's. Now, in my mind,
Yes.
it was some time ago.
Okay.
It was a wonderful little shack, a little tiki shack in Florida. And they didn't have many drinks. You could have one of two beers and about 3 mixed drinks that they did right there. That was it.
Oh, they're
because
the-
it was a quick stop.
They are the best.
McSheck's.
Now, let's go back in time a little bit here. We are drinking from the Steve Mitchell glasses. Your
Yeah,
brother, Steve Mitchell, was a famous drummer.
Yes, he was. He was the famous one in the family. And he passed away in 2019, being unable to drum anymore.
Yeah.
And that was tough for him. But we had a memorial. No, actually, it wasn't a memorial. It was a celebration of life.
Absolutely.
And they had these glasses made up. Campus Theater in Lewisburg put his name up on the billboard, and we had a great time.
Well, Steve did the music for Charlie Brown. He did the music for One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
And Garfield.
He did Garfield. He also, I remember one night I was watching that, what's that car?
Tucker.
The Tucker car. He was in
the
that movie.
Tucker.
Yeah.
He was the band leader in that movie. And actually, I think it was Ford Coppola, Francis Ford Coppola, who hired him to write the music and lead the band.
Now, there's a funny part about this is he did a lot of work with Jim Henson of the Muppets, and
yes.
the story goes he was the inspiration of Animal of the Muppets.
Well, apparently it's true. Almost every drummer I know was. They say that animals fashioned after them. In the Jazz Encyclopedia, it mentions my brother's name with Jim Henson and Animal.
All right.
So I'm going to take that as true.
I had a lot of fun. Got to know your brother. He gave my daughter some drumming lessons, and he was phenomenal. He really was. He was a lot of fun. Real larger-than-life character. I mean, he was a big boy. He was...
He was also larger than life.
Well,
he ate a lot over the years.
Now, a person who's lived a full life like yourself, do you have any tavern stories that are fun?
Oh, well, 8 million of them?
Well, just cut it down to 1 or 2.
Okay. As I said, I love dive bars. I used to go to a bar in Bloomsburg that my landlord said you'll have to put up with the bar next door. It's the Parlor City Cafe.
The Parlor City Cafe. It's not around anymore.
No.
No.
And it was actually, obviously, the Parlor City Cafe.
Was this early 60s?
Oh, yeah, early 60s.
Okay.
I have stories from there that will go on for hours. But I just thought about this young man who apparently was in the railroad cleanup business. If there's been a train wreck or something, he goes out and helps clean them up. And I think he got bonked in the head by a steam engine. But he told this story.
It didn't go well.
He said,
It did go.
he said, I've been cleaning up train wrecks for years. I cleaned up the Casey Jones train wreck. And somebody said, well, wait, it's 1961, let's say, and Casey Jones was in 1900. And the little guy looked around and very proudly said, they left it for me. Now, where do you run into that kind of honest-to-God hometown humor besides a frickin' dive
tavern,
bar?
a dive
Dive
bar.
bar.
Exactly.
And a dive bar, I don't think that's a negative.
Oh, no.
Some of our best times, Scott, have been at eating pizzas that aren't even warm because that little oven wouldn't warm it, and have conversations with a dozen people.
Now, you've bartended before?
Briefly. I wonder what it was like on the other side of the bar, and I found it not as much fun as I thought it would be.
Really?
Much more fun being on the other side.
Chad, have you ever bartended?
Yeah, absolutely.
Where'd you bartend?
Yeah, out there in Shamokin at Bruiser's Sports Grill.
Oh, yeah.
I bartended out there. I actually helped them start that restaurant.
Okay.
And then I bartended at Daddy McFaddy's in Northumberland.
McFaddy's.
I was Daddy McFaddy's first employee that they hired. It was in 2006. I landed my little apartment out here on the island, and it was called the Chad Toe. That was my
Chad Toe.
the Chad Toe. And then I would work at the radio station, and they pay you peanuts, so you have to do a couple side hustles, and bartending was one of those side hustles. And the Nickel Plate, just in 2019, I bartended at the Nickel Plate in Elysburg.
The Nickel Plate. Is that still
Yeah,
up and
that's the
running?
Three Ponds Golf Course.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah. I've been there.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
so
that's nice.
I loved bartending.
Okay.
It's like it should be a trade to learn bartending, because that's a skill that you could take anywhere, really anywhere.
Do you remember the
go.
first time you and I got together? We were in a dive.
We were in a dive, all right.
And how did I not get thrown out?
I don't know.
Scott, you're good at getting thrown out. If you didn't get thrown out, you didn't live up to your name.
It was a bachelor party.
Yes. Jason Rapon saved me that night.
Yes, he did.
I deserved to go.
Yeah, you were.
I wore my welcome out.
You not to me. No. I considered you more welcome. I'm going to be friends with this guy.
I'm going in.
Yeah,
I remember diving into the middle of the stage.
Yeah. So we went to an adult club, and as the first time I met Bernstein coming out of the limo. 20 minutes into the entertainment that night, he decides to leapfrog onto stage.
She ripped my shirt off and then took it.
Yeah.
And ran with it.
Which is a big no-no at these adult
Shame on her.
establishments. Yes. But you went in there and you really set the pace. You really set the pace.
Set the pace.
Yeah.
And you didn't get thrown out.
No, I didn't.
I don't know why or how. That
I think
memory
Jason took care
has
of it.
escaped me.
Yes, Jason took care of it.
Were you ever in a dive bar where somebody threatened somebody with a gun?
No, I haven't. No.
Nor have I.
No, I've never. I was once in Atlantic City where there was gunfire and had to dive behind my car. But I'll tell you, that's the closest I got.
Then you needed a beer. It wasn't that you were having a
Where
beer.
did the term dive bar come from? Like, why is it a dive? Are we diving in there?
I think it means
Seafood dive. They use it the same way.
It's a not a very expensive or exciting place to be when you first walk in, and then you realize that it's been around for hundreds of years. Because so many people smoked for so many years, so many smoked
I thought he was going
with
somewhere else
people.
with that.
I got that. Something happened with the smoking part, and so many people smoked that the walls, the ceiling, and every artifact in the place was tobacco brown.
Tobacco Brown.
That is a good dive bar.
You know, that would have been a good name. You know, when you go to like your local Sherwin-Williams and you get paint,
Yeah.
and they have all these ridiculous names. Tobacco Brown.
Tobacco Brown.
There's a name for you.
I doubt if it's going to catch on.
All right. Well,
What are we drinking?
Well, we're drinking a pale ale from Portland. It is the Lone Pine Brewing Company, and Portland, Maine is really was the beginning of some great beers of the 80s. When I lived there, Gary's was the first one to break 1 million bottles, the microbrews. And
I've probably broken 1 million bottles myself.
Wow.
That was by accident.
so, yeah, it's one of those things where I love, like, reminiscing back, and any beer from Portland usually is good, like pizza coming out of New Haven, Connecticut. It's just one of those places. But, hey, I want to thank you, my friend. It was a lot of fun.
I want to ask Than about, just real quick, about his love of Lord Chesterfield.
Oh, yeah, that's
yeah.
right.
I want to
That's
talk to Than about that because it's an interesting choice.
Well, I like an IPA. Let me see this can. I want to see what this is. I like an IPA, but I like a mild IPA for
Christ's
hot
sake.
days, out in the boat for the day. Scott can't open a beer.
Would you
What happened
would you
to these-
cool it over there?
He said to me on the way over, he brought me over here and he said, "You're going to be able to handle this?" And I said, "Better than you."
Holy hell.
This is a good Portland beer, no doubt about it.
Yes, it has that old. You know who started brewing from the Portland area? It was the guy who started the Sealandsco Brew Pub.
Oh,
Steve.
yeah.
He was
Steve did.
originally from Maine and started at, I think, his first microbrew was the first one I went to, which a place called Grady McDuff's was the first microbrew
Oh
in
yeah,
Portland.
I've heard a lot of people talk
Oh,
about
that's
Grady's.
fantastic. I brought some back for us once, and we had their best bidder. But hey, I want to thank you guys. Before I'll need a mop
You're going
to
to
get
need
out of
hip
here.
waiters for the next episode.
I'd like to thank PennsylvaniaBeer.com and the Bison Beverage of Lewisburg. Hey, always remember, beer is fun. Take care
Beer
now.
is
Peace.
fun, and bring that rag out into your glass. Don't waste all that beer.
You got it, my friend. Peace. Take care.
PennsylvaniaBeer.com and Bison Beverage of Lewisburg presents Beer Time.
This podcast was produced by Stone State Entertainment.